Hi, this is Scott Gehring with Epoch Martial Arts. Today we're going to be talking about vertical fields and the envelope. If you don't understand these principles and concepts, you are woefully unprepared for a fight. Let's get into it.
Vertical fields and the envelope. Brought to you by Epoch Martial Arts.
What are vertical fields and the envelope? Well, to help understand these principles, it also helps to understand the dimensions of combat. There are 4 dimensions of combat. There is height, depth, width, and time. Each one of these dimensions has its own movement pattern. For example, the dimension of depth has accordial movement, in and out. The dimension of width has lateral movement, side to side. The dimension of time has acceleration and deacceleration. And the dimension of height has vertical movement, up and down. Today's focus is going to be on the vertical movement portion. Vertical fields and the envelope define the pathways of vertical movement. Stay tuned.
Height is the most fundamental of all the dimensions. It governs the 2 types of movement, stand-up versus ground.
There are 4 vertical fields of engagement: stand-up to stand-up, ground to ground, ground to stand-up, and stand-up to ground. Those 4 trajectories create what's called the envelope. It looks like a 1990s email icon. And so I think if you visualize that, that really is helpful to understand what the envelope is, what it looks like, and how to remember it. Let's review.
The vertical fields and the envelope. There are 4 vertical fields. Stand-up to stand-up. Ground to ground. Stand-up to ground. Ground to stand-up. Together, these 4 vertical fields create the envelope.
Each one of these vertical fields needs to be trained, meaning you got to get in there and box, stand up to stand up. You need to get down on the ground and roll, ground to ground. You need to actually fight with one person standing up and the other person on the ground fighting upward. And you also have to invert that role, meaning I may be fighting downward against an opponent on the ground. You need all 4 of these trajectories to create the complete vertical fight. We're going to walk through case studies on each one of the vertical fields of engagement and how they work. Stay tuned.
Use case number 1. Stand-up to stand-up. Brian throws a punch combination at Scott. Scott deflects the attack and counters with firepower and movement. Both Brian and Scott stay on their feet through the duration of the fight. This is a stand-up to stand-up engagement of force and gives us 2 sides of the envelope. There are 3 horizontal alignments of force in combat. One is the neutral force alignment, which is a head-to-head fight. 2 is the angular force alignment, where force comes from the side. 3 is the net force alignment, where force comes from the rear. This is important to recognize as not all attacks come from the front. The next use case will illustrate a net force alignment. Use case number 2. Stand up to stand up. Net force alignment. Brian is choking Scott from the rear in a net force alignment. Scott thwarts the attack by counter-grabbing, crossing the arms, and changing to a neutral force alignment so he can follow up with his tools. Both Brian and Scott stay on their feet through the duration of the fight, thereby making this a stand-up to stand-up engagement of force. Use case number 3. Ground to stand-up. Jack is in Scott's guard. Scott uses Kino Muay Thai to get Jack to release. Scott kicks Jack off, scrambling to his feet. The scramble is the ground to stand-up envelope pathway. This is use of movement to escape.
Physical force in the martial arts is a blend of movement and firepower.
Physical force equals movement plus firepower. Therefore, each vertical field can be filled with either movement or firepower. The last use case was movement. The next use case is firepower. Use case number 4. Ground to stand up using firepower. Jarrett is on his back, Scott is stand up. Jarrett uses firepower to fill the ground to stand-up pathway. Use case number 5. Stand up to ground. Joe comes at Scott with punches. Scott blocks the punches, gets around Joe's neck, and using control, takes him to the ground. This is the stand-up to ground envelope pathway. There are 2 major things you can do to a man in a fight: damage and control. The book Strategic Engagement of Force illustrates this as the force-objective duality, where damage yields control and control yields damage. Use case 5 was control. Use case 6 will be damage. Use case number 6. Stand up to ground using damage. Jarrett comes at Scott with a tackle attempt. Scott throws Jarrett to the ground, creating impact damage. From there, Scott hits Jarrett with a flurry of strikes. This maximizes damage, thereby yielding control. This is the stand-up to ground envelope pathway. Use case number 7. Ground to ground. Scott and Sean are rolling using Jiu-Jitsu. Jiu-Jitsu is the quintessential art for wrestling on the ground. Scott is on top, Sean is bottom. This illustrates the ground-to-ground pathway with one man on top and the other on the bottom, giving us the top and the bottom of the envelope. Use case number 8. Ground to ground with striking.
Turn back the face, but you gotta start, hold on to the head, and hold
Joe attacks Scott with a ground and pound. Scott blocks the punches, pins Joe's leg, and flips him on his back. Scott chain punches Joe's groin. This is the ground-to-ground envelope pathway with striking instead of wrestling. Use case number 9. Putting it all together. The complete envelope. In this use case, all vertical fields are used. Stand up to ground. Ground to ground. Ground to stand up. Stand up to stand up. This drill is the complete envelope. Back to Scott.
How do we develop the four-dimensional fighter? Well, understanding the dimensions of combat, height, depth, width, and time help get you there. Today we just focused on the vertical field. In other videos we focused on accordial fields, lateral fields. Next we'll focus on the dimension of time. I hope you found this video helpful, and we'll see you in the next one.
For a more detailed exploration on this topic, please refer to the book Strategic Engagement of Force, a field guide for the use of martial arts strategy and tactics. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you want more videos like this one.